Tea Party, and I want to welcome you all here. I'm so excited that you're here. So excited that we have this event tonight, and so we just have a couple of housekeeping things, and then we'll get started. But first of all, I'd like to ask one of our newest board members, Travis Leslie, if he would come and open us in just a word of prayer.
I'll stand if you would. Lord, we thank you for bringing us here tonight, Lord. We ask, God, that you keep your hand on each and every person here in attendance, Lord. We ask, Lord, that you touch our leaders, Lord, that you give them the wisdom, God, to do what's right, to do what's in your will. Lord, we ask that you go with each and every person here tonight, Lord, that there would be a nugget of your truth, Lord, that would rest within each and every one of us, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings and keeping your hand upon us and upon our country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Travis. And now we'd like to have Cindy Fussell from Alvin Tea Party to come and lead us in our pledges. I wanted to just mention to you all before we get started, how many of you all are familiar with the Texas Grassroots Border Crisis Action Plan? Oh, just a very few of you, really. Well, about 4 weeks ago, we had grassroots leaders from all around Texas come into the Clear Lake area, into Webster, and we had a conference, a one-day conference, and we talked about the border crisis and what that all is wrapped around is what we see as an ineffectual state government that's not stepping up and doing the duty that I think to their oath of office to protect Texans. When we have a federal government that is so negligent and derelict in their own duty, it comes upon Texans and legislators, governors, attorney general, lieutenant governor to stand up and be that protector for the citizens of Texas. And so we got together all day long, and we hashed out what we believed were the main points, and we went through this really in a manner of what is the constitutional and what is the correct authority that Texas has to do this when the United States federal government is derelict. And it is a constitutional remedy under Article 1, Section 10, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. Actually, the governor can determine that we are in imminent danger. And when the federal government is not fulfilling their obligation to the citizens, then the governor absolutely has the, I believe, moral obligation, but he certainly has the constitutional authority to do that. And so that's what we're asking the governor to do. We have a 14-page plan. It's very detailed. It has gone through constitutional review. It has gone through legal review. And it is something that can be done. It is something that is lawful and constitutional. And so we presented this in a press conference a couple of weeks ago. And as you can imagine, we're not getting very much traction from the three main players in state government. So we are moving into phase 2. And phase 2 is that we are asking each and every one of you to get 5 of your friends, and you each call the Lieutenant Governor, the Attorney General, the Speaker of the House, your representative, your state representative, and your state senator, and tell them that you want them to do something. You want them to do something bold, because we're losing Texas. And how Texas goes will certainly go the United States. Now, I'm not sure that we can save the United States right now, but we certainly can save Texas. And that's what we're asking them to do. We're actually demanding that they do something bold. And when you speak with Governor Perry, you might tell him that if he is interested in being president or running for the presidency, that if there's one way he could become an overnight hero to millions of Americans, not just in Texas, but all around this country, is to stand up and actually do something bold. Do the right thing for Texas, the right thing for the United States. And he, you know what, I'm not his #1 fan, but if he will do the right thing, I will get in behind him. I will. So if that's what he wants to do, he needs to decide that the money is not as important as the sovereignty of this state and this nation. So that's all I have to say. All right, do we have any elected officials in the House? We have Tanya Robertson. She's our SREC woman, female representative. And I'm really sure she's going to make a change in the Texas Republican Party. Right? Yes. We need it. Are there any candidates in the House that would like to introduce themselves? No? All right. Well, I know that we do have precinct chairs. I just want to thank you for your service. I want to thank all of you that served in the military for your service. Thank you so much. Any other quick announcements? Anything else? Carol, wait 1 second, Tanya. Carol, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Me?
Yes.
Mary, I just wanted to clarify on Article 1, Section 10, whatever it was, 3. Doesn't that address the issue of invasion?
Yes.
Imminent danger of invasion?
Yes, the governor can declare that we are under...
Bypass Congress. They can bypass Congress on that particular one you mentioned.
It's not bypassing.
No.
Having their own authority
Right.
to do what certain things.
What that does is give the governors the right to declare that we are under an invasion and our sovereignty is in imminent danger, our citizens are in imminent danger, and he can act.
If he chooses.
That's correct. So that's why I'm asking you and 5 of your friends to call. And we will be sending out that in our newsletter so you'll have all the information. But please, folks, this is important. It's important.
Serious.
It's serious.
That's what I was going to say, Mary. That newsletter is being crafted right now, and if you're not on our email list, we have a sign-up sheet back here. We'd love to send it to you and keep you in the loop.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, before I forget, please everyone silence your phones. Terry, if you know how to silence mine, you just push it. Thank you. All right. Mr. Lynch, you ready? Get started? All right, we're here for the main event now. Dennis Michael Lynch, also known as DML. We're very excited to have you. Very excited. So he is an acclaimed film producer, award-winning entrepreneur, a political commentator who serves as editor-in-chief at dmldaily.com. Dennis is a frequent guest on conservative talk radio programs and seen regularly on Fox News. He has also appeared several times on the Blaze TV, C-SPAN, and MSNBC. And I just want to add something. I'm also a Texas border volunteer. My husband Dale is also. And so I got to know Dennis through his work, through They Come to America. And many of you know Liz Tice. She also brought that movie to us, and we aired that once several months ago. Actually, probably 2-3 years ago. It's been a while. But and They Come to America, Coming to America Part 2. I think he did a lot of recording with Texas Border Volunteers and down on the border. And so I know that he's very serious about this, as we are. And so I'm very excited to have him here. And let's give him a warm Texas welcome.
Thank you. So what's going on with I-45?
It's a parking lot for 30 years.
You know, when you did forget to tell me. Yeah. It's funny because when you know, I've been doing all this traveling. In fact, excuse me, I have a bit of a tail end of the flu cold. So when I meet you later, I'll give you a little fist bump. It's going out around through the country. I wonder how it all got here. Yeah. But it's funny because when you leave New York, I mean, New York is just nothing but a congestion highway. So when I leave, I always say, oh, you know, at least I won't have a congestion. Okay. Anyway, well, so thank you very much for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. As I travel the country and I go to various places, I would lie if I didn't say I just love coming to Texas, because that border is like chocolate ice cream for me. I just love going down to that border. I don't know what it is, but it's just like a magnet. I can't stop. So I'll be going down there again in a couple of days. I think I'm going down on Sunday. I don't know what is left at this point to film, because I think I've captured everything except for actually somebody from ISIS. And you know that's soon coming. You know, what I do here is, I hear myself. I'm going to pull this back over. Okay, sorry. I'm sure you can hear me pretty good, right? Okay. What I do here is I'll start off talking a little bit how this whole topic has changed over the last 4 years, just through my own experience. And I'm going to show you a couple of clips of my most recent spots on television, because I think that gives you the visual and the story about where we are at this point. And then I'm going to talk a bit about what took place today with the stuff going on over in Syria. And you'll see how it all sort of connects to each other. When I do this traveling, my presentation is never the same. I have a couple of notes that I write about 15 minutes before I walk in, and that's it. I try to keep it fresh based on what's going on in the world, and President Obama keeps us very busy. You know, I go back 4 years ago. I mean, if you saw that They Come to America, and then I've got They Come to America 2, and the DVD you're getting tonight is We Ride to D.C. But They Come to America, when I jumped in, if you watch that film, you see a guy who has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. And we go on this journey together, and most of America is just learning with me, because I really never understood the real problem of illegal immigration. I mean, up in New York, you know, we'll drive past the Home Depots, and it's sort of gone from 5 guys standing outside to 15 guys standing outside to 150 guys standing outside the Home Depot. The real sad thing about that is by 10:30 in the morning, there's 0 guys standing out there. And to find them, you'd have to go find, you know, your local house that's under construction. That said, I'm guilty of being like everybody else, really, except for people like you, which is, you know, you sort of just drive past the Home Depot and say, yeah, it's crowded. And then you walk into the Home Depot and you come out with whatever it is you have, and you're getting solicited by somebody who you really don't understand what they're saying unless you're fluent in Spanish. So, you're supposed to have your phone off. See, now we could have a New York, Texas thing if you want to have that. I'm looking around, I like my chances. Kidding. You know, it's funny because I usually have I have a joke. Don't tell anybody, but I don't do it all the time. But I'll set my phone on alarm when I know I'm going to be about halfway through a presentation, and I pretend that President Obama calls. But the problem is, and it hit me as I put my bag down when the announcement was made to turn off your phone. I had already done it, so the joke is going to get lost. But anyway, so when I decided to make They Come to America, I really didn't know anything about illegal immigration. It's never a day in my life, to be perfectly honest, where I wish that I had not decided to make a movie about illegal immigration. Because what it did is it opened my eyes to so many other problems that we have going on in the country. Because this problem, whether people want to recognize it or not, is attached to almost everything there is going on in America, primarily bad. So the difference between They Come to America 1 and They Come to America 2 is the fact that now I'm showing America a more detailed version of what I learned in They Come to America. And I don't know how many of you saw those two movies, but we have, I think we're well over 500,000 copies that have been distributed. So, I mean, there's a lot of people who have watched it who I don't know watched it because they had a free DVD handed out to them. But when I go back 4 years ago, the first TV show I ever did before I started being on Megan and the different Fox shows, I was on a small little TV show. I don't even remember the name of it. It was a Sunday morning show on a station called WPIX in New York. And the guy asked me, the very first question after he introduced me was, is this a protest film? And I said, no, it's a Wake Up America film. And then he said, well, why? Why does America need to wake up? And I responded, because illegal immigration is the #1 issue facing our country in the years to come. Now, I didn't say that as a filmmaker. In fact, it's funny. Everybody always asks, you know, what do you want us to say when you're introducing you? And I say they can say whatever they want, but if they need something, here you go. And you got read the here you go. I really shorten it down to, I'm a CEO who knows how to use a camera. That's really it. Since the time I was 18 years old, I've had my own businesses. I've employed collectively well over 1,000 people, 5 states over the course of my time. I've had 3 different businesses. And when I decided to get into filmmaking, if you really want to call it that, because I don't try putting the films in theaters or anything to that extent, I'm just trying to inform people. I look at things different than Dinesh D'Souza. I've met Dinesh a couple of times. We bumped into each other at the Kelly File. And I think he's the sort of guy who writes a book and looks here and says, okay, how would I film this? You know, I'm more of the guy who's going to say, okay, what happens if those balloons pop? Is anybody going to get hurt? You know, so I really look at the bottom line from a CEO lens. So when I made that comment to him about this is going to be the #1 problem facing America, it's because every single time I went to another shoot, whether we were filming at a school or a hospital or along the border, somebody jumping over, you name it, I kept on looking at it from the bottom line as a CEO. How is this going to affect my country? How is this going to affect my kids? How is this going to affect my business? How is it going to affect my taxes? And when I did all that math, I came away saying, oh my goodness. Now, that was about 2010. Fast forward to 2012, and we have Mr. Obama going up against Mr. Romney. And then we have the 2 vice presidents, or candidate and Mr. Biden. 4 debates in 2012. 4 of them. 3 for the president, 1 for the vice presidents. Illegal immigration was discussed only one time in those 4 debates for a total of 7 minutes. Why? Reason being is because Gallup polls disagreed with me. They said that it was at the bottom of issues facing America. I just sat there scratching my head saying, okay, sooner or later it's going to catch up. Well, it's officially caught up. Here we are about 2 years after those debates, and Gallup polls now put illegal immigration at the top of the list. So what happened? What happened differently to get us to go from where I was on that TV show 4 years ago to where we are today? And the fact of the matter is, nothing. People who were coming through the border in droves back then, they're coming through in droves right now. They came through in droves today, I'm sure. It happens every day, never turns itself off. So what happened? What happened is what you're going to see in that DVD you picked up tonight. That's about the media and the mainstream media, how it does not provide the truth. It does not provide the real story to America. Now, I already know the answer, but how many people in here watch Fox News? Shocked. How many people in here watch MSNBC? Or ABC News? Or see periodically? Okay. No. 13, is that local?
Yes.
No. I mean Diane Sawyer, sort of ABC
I
News.
don't know. I'm Taiwan.
Well, no, that's broadcast TV. So when you look at CBS Evening News and NBC Nightly News and ABC World News Tonight, those are the big national programs. So if you take those three and you take CNN and MSNBC and you just put those together, they reach about 30 million people each and every night. Bill O'Reilly, if he had on the head of ISIS, might hit 3 million on his best night. He's still the #1 show. If you take the #2 show, Megyn Kelly, okay, Megyn's the best show that Megyn ever had. Her opening night, her opening guest was Ted Cruz. The next night was the best night she's ever had since she's been there. And her opening guest was the guy sitting in front of you. Go figure. Go figure. Even when she had Cruz or Lynch on, we still didn't even come close to 3 million. The point being, 30 million versus 3 million. So I'm going to play these clips here for you, and imagine what maybe the situation of illegal immigration would look like today if ABC News and NBC and all those other broadcast places were putting this sort of thing on the television.
Breaking tonight, sources telling the Kelly File there is a new worry on our southern border tonight, with border agents overwhelmed by this huge recent surge in illegal immigrants. The cartels are now taking advantage. Filmmaker Dennis Michael Lynch traveled down there this week and found this.
Megan, right now it's about 7:30 p.m. down here in South Texas. I'm going to show you 4 things. Number 1 is the bridge, the international bridge from the U.S. going into Mexico. It's got to go through a preserve, a U.S. preserve. Right now there are Border Patrol, tons of them, in that preserve trying to apprehend the families that are coming across. Move over to the right. You'll see this park. It's completely empty. But today, before 5 o'clock, it was filled with Border Patrol and constables. Where they've gone, I have no idea. It's completely empty. And this is what scares me to death. Over there, you have Mexico, and that's the Rio. And you can see the lights on the cars. Those are all scouts. And there are little dinghies, and they've got little boats that are coming across and wave runners. And they keep on going back and forth. And that wave runner is bringing over drugs, and it's bringing over people. So while we're over here trying to get families, we've got everything dangerous coming through on the right. Add to that, Megan, today, during the day, on this whole long dirt pan road, you had Border Patrol truck after Border Patrol truck after Border Patrol truck. There's nobody here now when it matters most, when most of the crossings happen.
This is incredible and so undercovered. You saw the numbers. Last year we had 6,500 children come into this country illegally. This year they're projecting 90,000 is the projection by government officials. They're saying it could be as high as 150,000 children who are going to come across that southern border this year alone illegally. We can't handle them, and the question is, why?
Oh, remember when the president boasted he has a telephone and he has a pen and he knows how to use them? He could stop all of this with a telephone and a pen.
There is no health screening. There's no health screening. The health screening, the closest thing you're going to get to a health screening is fingerprinting. I've seen numerous families come in and go out and nobody has touched them in any way, shape, or form.
But these health concerns are very real, and the impact they can have here in the U.S. You've seen documentation that goes a step further as well. Tell us what you know.
I receive documents that I'm not supposed to receive. Let's just put it at that, and I've shared some of them with you. It shows just half a day of sort of the process that goes through these detention centers and what sort of diseases they're finding. Swine flu, bacterial pneumonia, chicken pox. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And Shannon, what concerns me most is not so much the children right now in these detention centers, because that only represents 15% of the overall population that has been apprehended at the Border Patrol, or at the border. The real concern is the 85% of people. They call them families. That consists of just one person and at least a kid. They've just been released into the general public. And with school starting in the next month, we've got ourselves a real problem, Shannon.
Our immigration laws are pretty good. We take in more people from around the world every year legally than all other countries combined. Does it need some tweaking? Absolutely. Do we have a problem here with the so-called dreamers who were brought here when they were 2-3 years old? They had no choice. Sure, we have to deal with them. But by and large, what you're seeing taking down in Texas, we should immediately be deporting these children. Feed them, check them for diseases, do whatever we can, treat them as humanely as we can. Treat them as humanely as we would an American child. But they need to go home. We need enforcement. We don't need reform. Immigration reform is a fancy way of saying amnesty. And one of the callers, I think it was Ed or Ben, said, let's call their bluff. You want to call their bluff? Say, sure, we'll give amnesty. But the people we give amnesty to can never, ever vote. Just write that line in. And you write that line in, you watch all these guys run for the hill. They're done. This is about cheap votes, cheap labor. That's it. To disguise it any other way is just stupidity.
The amount of lies and misinformation from both political parties and from the media establishment and from talking heads all across the aisle, with rare exception out there, is astounding.
Immigration reform. The U.S. needs immigration reform to retain talented workers educated in the U.S. and attract talent to the U.S. Immigration reform could provide an instant jolt to the U.S. economy, which we need.
This is a boost to our economy. What do we do about the people who are here, the 11 million who are here?
I'd expand the work visa program to include them. But here's the problem. This is why I ended up voting against the bill in the Senate. Because the bill in the
comprehensive immigration.
The bill in the Senate actually constricted work visas. For construction workers, the bill set the number at 15,000. We've got 6 million people here undocumented doing construction work. So you need to expand work visas so we can find a place for these people to come out of the shadow.
You don't want to explode the labor. You want a short supply of labor. If you care about American workers, you don't want more people than are employable.
Well, show the next clip, Andrew. Show the clip of the guy, the carpenter.
Okay, this is a clip of Tom Riedel.
So what do? I take the stuff out of the dumpster that seems like it's sellable, and I try to sell it. I was a master carpenter. I still am. I used to make a lot of money. And this is what I'm reduced to, because the illegal aliens and the contractors that hire them, they bury me. They bury me.
And the big concern here is that when you've got hard-working guys like that who don't want to collect welfare, he wants to work. He wants to go out and he wants to do what his trade is, to build homes, to put in windows. He can't, because he can't compete.
My contention is that when every child in America, when every adult in America is living the American dream. I just walked to C-SPAN this morning and saw 2 homeless men sleeping on the concrete. I posted it on Facebook. When those men have a place to go every day, a job to be had, and a place to live, I'll open my arms to everybody. But until that happens, we have to follow our legal immigration processes. And we have to stop the illegal immigration. Everybody also talks about, well, we need more boots on the ground, we need more fences, we need more technology. Baloney. I've seen that. I've seen it at its best. Technology everywhere. I mean, you think you're in a high-tech video game, and they're still coming through. There's no will to stop these people. That's it. Until there's a will, and until we want to enforce our laws, this is going to continue.
Let's show our viewers what you're seeing, and we'll show a little bit of that.
We've had 43 full-size trucks full of marijuana come across this border cutting the wall. They cut it at ground level, lays it on the ground, they drive trucks in. Same place all the time. They know where they're coming, and they still get away. A pickup full of marijuana is worth $1 million.
You get the drones up there, you got the satellites, you got you got the radar, you got the new cameras, you got the Border Patrol station over there. How is that happening?
I don't understand it. Haven't been caught. This is absolutely the worst it's been for 23 years.
Now you have to understand something. This is very, very important. Not only are we just bringing over drugs, not only are we bringing over day laborers, but we're bringing over people who present a national threat. Right now, based on the intelligence that I've gotten from the Border Patrol, and they have not steered me wrong yet, MS-13 gang members are being paid up to $50,000 per head to take people in special interest from China, from Russia, and from the Middle East. They're coming in undetected. If we've got little kids crossing the border, what do you think we have somebody from ISIS or from Hezbollah or Hamas doing? I have found prayer rugs. I have found Korans in the desert. I've worked with the Border Patrol and caught 20, 30 people at a time and had Middle Eastern people mixed in.
Well, does that mean they're necessarily terrorists?
It doesn't mean that they're not. What you explain to me, the religious connection, or you explain to me the geographical connection from somebody coming over from Iran through Mexico. And there is a 2012 congressional report that states the drug cartels are working with terror networks. You want to take that chance? I don't.
It's got to be a Mexican helicopter, right?
These guys are flying right over us. They're on U.S. airspace.
They do it every day.
Is that military? It is a military chopper. I don't know if it's military on board or not. Let's go, pal. Follow the helicopter.
Oh, this is not the helicopter you want to follow.
Somebody's trying to watch us. We have to be very careful. The Mexican military will scout for the cartels. Never can trust them.
We're back with filmmaker Dennis Michael Lynch. I watched this video, and it's stunning. You've got a Mexican helicopter flying right over into U.S. airspace. No challenge. Nobody stopping it. You know, you just saw this stuff. Were you surprised to see this level of just brazen activity on the part of even Mexican government officials flying over as if to say, what are you going to do about it?
Sadly, no. Sadly, no, Governor.
Immigration laws were designed to protect the American workers from unfair foreign competition, and they were designed to protect the American citizens from people who want to come here and cause harm. And we're doing neither. And you know, let me just say something else about terror. Terror doesn't always have to be a building falling down. Terror can be rape. Terror could be being killed by somebody in the DWI. Terror could be when you are a Border Patrol agent on a fishing trip and get killed by 2 illegal immigrants who have been deported and returned how many times? That's terror.
Here's the thing you're not thinking of. We're talking about the pictures that we see. The Border Patrol only catches about 1/3 of people who come across. The other 2/3 are just getting through. Don't you understand? What you're seeing is not really what's happening. It's just only the pimple. I promise you this. This is going to transform this country. He doesn't need a pen, and he doesn't need a phone. All he needs is a blind eye. And that's exactly what's taking place right now. Okay. So, thank you. I appreciate that. But that's not why I showed you. Could you imagine had some of those clips, the real visuals, been in front of 30 million people? It's a far different showcase. Now, when you watch We Ride to D.C., you're not going to see all of that. You'll see a little piece of what's in there. But you're going to see what Diane Sawyer shows the American people as the border. She shows it being secure. That's what the news report is all about. And that report came out 8, 9 months ago. So when you have people watching television, when you have people getting their news from Huffington Post or NBCnews.com, this is the information they're being fed. And so you really can't totally blame them. It's not like they just decided that they were going to watch American Idol instead of watching the news. They watched the news, but this is what they got. And you'll see it. What happened is when those children were on the ground in the border stations, the media could no longer ignore the problem. And so they had to tell what was going on. And even then, they were somewhat dishonest in their reporting. Because as I explained in that clip, only 15% of those apprehensions are the children. And the children, most of them are teens, not the ones in the diapers that you hear about. I mean, let's be serious. There are not children in diapers swimming across the Rio. Okay? But that's a good story. That's a good headline. That's a good opening, breaking news. Boom! And so that's why it scored at the bottom in 2010. Sadly, that's why it was brought up only once in 4 debates. Because all of these guys, and I mean DC guys, they all chase the Gallup polls. If there was a debate tonight, 98% of that debate tonight would be about ISIS. They would forget about everything else. They wouldn't talk about Common Core. They wouldn't talk about the borders anymore. They wouldn't talk about the debt. They wouldn't talk about China buying property all across the U.S. They'd just talk about ISIS. And because so many Americans right now are just, in a trance, this is why we are where we are. I want to give you a couple of details. It's funny. I've never spoke like this before in Texas. I come down here, I film. I've never given a speech. I've been doing these tours now for 3 years. This is the first time I've ever toured Texas. I was scheduled once before, but I always get sick whenever I'm supposed to come. And
you're not bringing your gun.
I don't know what it is. I'm not bringing what? My gun?
Your gun with you.
I don't own a gun. Believe it or not. Yeah. Hey, I'm from New York. I'm from New York. I do. It's funny. I do all this stuff. She spoke about the Texas border volunteers. I wish I could do a Texas drawl, but the one guy I was with was like, "You don't got a gun?" No, I got you. That's it. Who here saw the stuff that went on in Nevada with the Bundy Ranch?
I did.
Okay. Did any of you see me going up to those M16s?
Yep.
That's one of my defenses. I yelled at him. I was like, "Hey, I'm from New York. Like, I don't have a gun." That was my way of saying I don't have a gun. It should be universal knowledge that we're not allowed to have guns. To get a gun in New York is you got a better chance of getting on the next space shuttle to the moon.
I know, right? Yeah, you got to go to Russia.
A couple of things I don't know whether or not. So the reason why I said that is because I don't know if what I'm telling you is something that you have on your local news, seeing that I'm not a local. But I'm going to tell you this anyway, in case you don't know. A lot of people, if they're going to argue against me, they'll say, "Well, President Obama has deported more people than anybody else." He has not. The reason why he could make that claim is because he changed the definition of a deportation. All right, does everybody in here know that? Should I skip, or are there people who don't know? All right, tell you? Okay. So the thing is that right now, let's just say today, that Joe from Mexico crossed over the Rio. Say that 5 times. And the Border Patrol agent got him and brought him to the international bridge, walked him halfway over and said, "Go back." That's called a turn back. That's always been a turn back. President Obama said, that's a deportation. Now, to add injury to insult, Joe from Mexico has got a lot of fire in his belly. So he's going to try that routine 4 more times today. And all 4 times the result is going to be the same. And President Obama is going to consider that 5 deportations. Okay? So that's a little bit of ammo in your gun, if you will, the next time somebody says to you that he's deported more people than ever. If you remove that, He's deporting nobody. All right, at this point, he is deporting nobody. Another thing is, I mean, you know, Texas is a big state, so I don't know how many of you actually spent any time at the border or you've done what I've done, but let me explain to you, I want to give you the exact happenings when somebody crosses over and why it is that that National Guard is going to ultimately be ineffective. When somebody crosses over that border, and I mean 6 inches over that border, they're being taken to the Border Patrol station. When they're at that Border Patrol station, they're getting processed. Children without parents are going to one place, and everybody else, the families, or just adults by themselves, are going to another place. Now, there are no health checks for 85% of the people. The kids get the health checks, but everybody else, nobody gets a health check. They're asked a couple of questions. Everybody gives the same answer on the first question, which is, I'm here because I'm fleeing danger in my home country. But then when they get to question 6 and 7, which they didn't prepare for, it basically comes out that they're here because they think they're going to get permission to stay. Or because their brother-in-law or their husband or whoever it is back home and said, come on in, they're letting you in. And that's what it is. My problem with that, and I don't think we've seen it yet, I'm going to bank all the money I've got on the fact it's going to hit. Those diseases that they're catching with those kids, and I forgot to mention tuberculosis, scabies, I mean the list is long. That's what you're seeing with just the children. You've got to believe these other people are carrying those same things. And that is being just spread out throughout the country. So, you know, the lady who opened up, what's your first name? Mary. I won't forget that one. That's my wife's name. You said, how do you save the U.S.? The U.S. isn't even recognizable anymore. It's not recognizable. Story that I haven't told anybody else unless you follow me on Facebook. I live out on the east end of Long Island. I'm right at the end. And so we have small towns, small schools. And for the first time ever, we did not have a football homecoming this year. It was soccer. And the reason why that took place is because we're such a small school that we are supposed to play against the other small schools that have 20 and 25 kids on the team. Well, suddenly, our population over the last 4 years has popped, with most of that, 99.9% of that population, being kids who don't speak English. So because we have to count them as part of the student body, we are now the size of the big schools that have 50 and 60 kids on their football team. So to save our kids from getting absolutely pummeled, both physically and the score, you name it, we had a choice. Either put a team on there, and if we get down to 18 kids, we're not allowed to field a team underneath that. Or just say we can't play football anymore. And the decision was not to play football anymore on the varsity level. So we still got our JV team, which is my son, right? And because, you know, they had a little bit of a bigger team and they had a lot more success, it's all right, well, let's do that. We'll put that as the homecoming. But then they held a vote. And because our school is primarily children now who play soccer, our town officially has a homecoming with soccer. And I went to this soccer game, and I stood there, and I almost just lost it, because I couldn't understand anybody who was standing around me. I tried. Of course I record. I record everything. Except for yeah, I record everything. That's just one small example of the cost of illegal immigration that never finds its way onto a spreadsheet. You can't equate that on a spreadsheet. You can't equate the change of our culture on a spreadsheet. And so I have a very easy to implement solution to this problem. It goes like this. I believe that you have to fight fire with fire. It's the only way to ever win any game. No matter what it is you want to talk about how you beat Hillary in 2016, you got to fight fire with fire. If you drop your gloves like Romney did, we lose. Okay? Fire with fire. You hit me, I'm going to hit you twice. You hit me twice, I'm going to hit you 4 times. And that's the way it's going to be. Other than that, you might as well just start practicing right now, saying President Hillary Clinton. Exactly. The first way to stop this problem immediately is to fine significantly. I'm talking about $10,000 per head for every illegal alien that an employer hires. Now remember, I'm telling you this as a CEO, okay? Not as a filmmaker. Yeah. There's a lot of next door neighbors in America. The second thing you do is if they continue to do it, because in some cases, as sad as this may sound, that $10,000 is still going to be a cheaper alternative. If they get caught a second time, you start prosecuting them, and you put them in jail. I guarantee you, between the fine and the possibility of going to jail, the hiring of these people will come to a halt. The second part, because that fixes some of it here in America. Now we got to fix it outside of America. We need to start deporting people. Humanely, we need to start deporting people immediately. Starting with the people who have come over the border today and tomorrow and yesterday and last week. They have to go home. Because the longer they're here, the harder it is to send them home. And he knows that. And so should every politician. Now, one of the things, I mean, I'm hoping to get out of this building in one piece because I'm going to beat up one of your guys before I leave. You know, I'm not here representing Republicans. I'm not here trying to get Perry or Cruz or Carson or anybody elected. I'm trying to get the truth out. I'm here for my 4 kids, and I don't care about Democrat or Republican. That's it.
Much of us like that.
Good. So then I'll walk out of here in one piece then. Good. I won't have to bring my New York out. Because you know I have a gun, right? Anyway, see, I shouldn't have tipped my hat. I should have let you think I had a big gun.
You got a knife.
That's right, yeah. I got a phone and a pen.
Running for president.
So anyway, the deportations cannot be done in the hundreds or in the thousands. They have to be done in tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. And believe me when I tell you, I've done this analysis. It is far cheaper to deport than to keep. And I'm not even long term. I'm talking about just even processing these folks, which I want somebody to tell me how we're going to do that. Because they keep on talking about 11 million, and everybody knows that Ronald Reagan gave amnesty. He thought he was going to give it to 1 million. It turned out to be almost 4 million, and he says it's the greatest mistake he ever made. So why are we going to repeat that process? I don't understand. So if we have 11 million and math repeats itself, or history I should say repeats itself, we could be looking at 44 million people. I think we're closer to 20, 40, anywhere between 20 and 40 million people than we are 11. If you deport those people, that message is going to spread. And then if somebody still tries, remember, they're paying these coyotes anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 per head. Can you imagine crossing over that border, having given $10,000 and being on a plane going back to Guatemala the next day? Right? What bothered you more, the 30-day travel or the 10 grand you lost? That message stops that flow. And once that flow stops, and once they can't hire the illegals anymore, you're going to see people starting to get jobs. That's the other big problem in this country. Jobs, welfare, and the economy. Every time you deport an illegal alien, you put another American to work. That is my contention. I will stay on it forever until the day I die. Thank you. It's already been proven. There have been raids before where they clear out a whole place. There was a place in Phoenix that just had this. They clear out a whole place. The next week, there's a line around the door of Americans looking for that job. You know, and I use my own personal experience here. My father is a Vietnam veteran, 1-9 Marine. Unfortunately, kind of screwed him up a bit. So he and Mom separated when I was about 13, 14 years old. My mother was like, wait a second, I have no formal training in anything. I've been a mom my whole life. Now what? And unfortunately, my dad was sort of deadbeat at that point. So my mother had to go out and get a job waitressing. And then when the waitressing was done during the day, at nighttime, she was bussing tables. It crushes me to think, what would have happened to my brother and I? We would have lost our house if my mother didn't have the ability to go in and get herself a waitressing job. And nowadays, those jobs aren't available. They're being taken by other people that shouldn't be getting them. So I understand what this impact is. Again, how do you take my mother being able to get a job? How do you put that on a spreadsheet? There's a cost to that when you can't get that job. I get very passionate about this because as I travel around and I go to welfare lines and the job fairs, I don't see people who just want to sit back and collect welfare. I see people who are collecting welfare, collecting unemployment, and there is a flatness in their eyes. They lose that incentive. They lose that spirit. It's like, have you ever seen a dog that's lost its spirit? Or have you ever seen a child, right? Can you imagine taking the spirit out of that child in the back? This is what you see with these people. And what happens is that once they start collecting that welfare, it starts to get easier and easier and easier and easier. And nowadays, welfare is basically a middle-class job. Barack Obama is burying the American people. He may think, and I know some people think he wants to kill America, other people, I just think he believes in his ideology. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he thinks he's helping people, he's killing them. I was just in Detroit and Chicago. It will be in my next film. I've recorded it all. You think the border's dangerous? Go to the south side of Chicago as a white guy by yourself. I think I didn't get shot. You know, I keep on doing these things. I must have a death wish. But when I got out, that's one of the reasons. When I got out of the car, the one guy looked at me like, and I went up to him. I just kind of held my camera in my hand. It was small. I carry a small camera when I do these things. And I said, no, I just want to ask you a couple questions. He said, well, I know you're not here for drugs. And I said, okay, fine. So I started asking him questions. He's got tattoos all over him. I mean, the kind of guy that if you saw walking down the street, you'd be like, but ultimately you start talking to him. I said, what has happened to these neighborhoods? What's happened to this neighborhood? You could take him and take any one of the 10 people I saw in either Chicago or Detroit. They all said the same thing to me. There are no jobs here. There's no hope here. People have given up. We've lost our sense of community. And here's the real problem. And I'm saying this to you, he didn't say this. I said, when you compare today to 6 years ago, give me the number ratio. So if it's 10 today in terms of bad, what was it 6 years ago? 2, 3. I said, all right, so 6 years is bad. He says, yeah. He goes, it's gotten so bad. Everybody said this. And then I asked him the parting question. So you must be upset with President Obama then. It's not his fault. I said, not his fault. I said, you don't put any blame on him at all? He said, no. He's done some really good stuff. And this one young boy, this is the one that got me really hard. This one young boy was standing outside of a church. He was the one kid I interviewed. Everybody else was an adult. And was dressed nice, just came out of church. His parents were there. His parents said, yeah, sure, talk to him. He says he wants to grow up and he wants to have a nice job. He wants to raise a family. You know, he wants to move out of Chicago because it's so bad or whatever it may be. And I asked him, how do you think President Obama's doing? And he says, I think he's doing great. I said, well, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to tell me one thing that he did great. He said, Obamacare.
Wow.
And I said to him, okay, I didn't want to hurt him. What he doesn't realize is that Obamacare is going to cost him the ability to get a job. I want to explain to you the perfect storm. Perfect storm is this. I used to have, I had a computer company. So I had about 250 employees across 5 states. Out of the 250 employees, I'd say 50 of them were management, sales, customer service. The other 200 were, I guess you could say, replaceable employees, in the sense that if the guy didn't show up to drive the forklift on Monday, I could put an ad out and get somebody else on Tuesday to drive the forklift after about 2 hours of training. Guys moving pallets around, stuff of that nature. The Obamacare business mandate kicks in January 2015. You want to talk about pain? Whew, here it comes. Anybody with 50 employees or more has to now give insurance to these employees. I would fall into that bucket. 200 employees, health insurance is going to really affect my bottom line in a time when my company's not doing that good anyway. What company is really doing that well right now? Well, if I don't give them the health insurance, I have to pay a fine. That fine is anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 per head per year. Okay. President Obama has clearly stated that once the election is over, he is going to basically give an amnesty. And that amnesty, just so you know, amnesty does not give somebody citizenship. You can't do that. Amnesty is basically going to be, you can stay here and work, you can stay here and live, you don't have to worry about getting deported. Here's your work permit. Remember me when you hear him say this or somebody else say this. If they say they will not be entitled to Obamacare, that is devastating. That is not a good thing. Here's why. Let's take me, although I would never do this. Come January 2015, I have to give all these 200 people in my warehouse health insurance or pay a $5,000 fine. Or I can now legally hire the illegal and not have to give them any health insurance. You're talking about $1 million to my bottom line. That is the perfect storm. You think you have unemployment now, we think we have problems now with wages, that is the perfect storm. That's bad. Now comes the part where I talked to you about some of the names that are brought up for 2016. These two lovely ladies here who I met outside, I'm sorry I forgot your names already. They're twins.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah. They were going to wear the same shirts, but they didn't want to throw me off. They follow me on Facebook. So I imagine they experienced this along with me. When I say Rand Paul is not a good candidate, I took a beating. You egotistical maniac, you this, you that.
Look what we just saw.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
we absolutely
Okay.
said
Okay. All right. I'm setting you up right now for the fall. So let me finish. So when you want to hand out work permits to illegal aliens, basically, I don't think you understand the economy. I don't think any of these politicians understand the economy. Lawyers don't understand the economy. Lawyers are a chase mentality. They're not a get in front of mentality. Business people are a get in front of mentality. In fact, this is not a slam on Ted Cruz, but that perfect storm I just gave you, I called up, anybody here familiar with Numbers USA? I'm tight with them. I called up Numbers USA when the Obamacare thing and amnesty was first starting to, I called up, I said, Roy, I just listened to a whole thing you did. He had a panel, a bunch of Tea Party people. Jenny Beth Martin was there. They went on for about an hour and a half, and not one person talked about what I did with the Perfect Storm. I called them up. I told them the Perfect Storm. It wasn't a week later. Ted Cruz was on the Congress floor presenting what I just told you. Okay? So lawyers don't think like this. They don't have that experience. I don't think doctors do either, to be quite frank. And so when Rand Paul does that sort of pandering, or if he really believes that, how in God's creation can he say that he wants to give jobs to the middle class? How can he talk about wanting to make it so this way you could live the American dream in the middle class? Because the immigration, both mass immigration, both legal and illegal, it's already been proven it drags down wages. So when these guys do that, they're throwing the American worker under the bus. Okay. The other thing you'll hear about, get ready for Ted Cruz. The other thing you'll hear about is how it is that we need all these high-tech workers. Does anybody here have a business? Okay. If you can't staff your business with the right people, is your business going to grow? You're going to stagnate, right? No. Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, all these people who are fighting for these visas, all these people who are fighting for immigration reform, because they can't find workers. You go look at their stock price 4 or 5 years ago. They've doubled, and that's at the minimum. You can't double your stock price. You can't double your revenue and your profitability if you don't have the right workforce. They are not short on supply. I can tell you that the unemployment for people, so what they call STEM workers. STEM workers is science, technology, math, and engineering. STEM workers are struggling. They're struggling. These people are highly educated. And if they do get a job, they're making peanuts. Because the people who are being brought in overseas are making even less than peanuts. And that's why these guys want reform. So anybody who talks about the fact that we need to increase those visas has no idea about the American worker, has no idea about the people who just said, yeah, I've got a business, I know what you're talking about. And obviously those guys never look at Apple or Facebook's stock price. They're buying the BS that these guys are hurting. Ted Cruz presented a bill to increase foreign workers, high-tech workers. That's a problem with me. I'm sorry he's in Texas, and I know a lot of you like him.
We'll be giving him a phone call.
I also don't like the fact that he went down with Glenn Beck to the border and handed out teddy bears and soccer balls and food.
Yeah.
Now, is that taxpayer money? No, it's not taxpayer money. It's donations. But even still, I want you to picture this in your head. There are two sisters sitting in Guatemala. They both have husbands up here in New York, let's say, working construction. And they're saying, listen, I'm watching TV. Come on up. It's time to come. And the one sister, they both got 2 little boys, let's say. And the one sister says to the other sister, I'm going. She says, I'm not going. You know we're going to wind up getting raped. You know there's a good chance that Johnny's going to fall off that death train. I'm not going. And the other sister says, well, I am. And she ventures out, and she gets all the way to the border. Unfortunately, she probably got raped along the way. And as she walks up to that border, there's Ted Cruz with a teddy bear, and Beck with a soccer ball, and a buffet sitting in the back. She takes out the iPhone, goes, and texts the sister, here's the border. Guess who just packed their bags? So although there is a humanitarian side to what Cruz and Beck did, what I find being the problem is that they incentive. The second problem, forget about the extra sister now who's coming, but the other problem, my wife and I, one of the ways that I get my wife to buy into this whole I'm going to travel and talk to America and try to inform them thing, is that I have figured out that I have to get her involved. So now, she'd kill me if she heard me say it like this, but so I give her things I said, you know, look into this. This is a problem, and when I come back, let's talk about it. So one of the things I gave her, because when we went to Hawaii for our 20th, we've been together since high school. We went to Hawaii for our 20th, and right next to our resort were people, Americans, living in tents. I mean, living in filth, having hardly any food. And one of them was kind of strung out on booze. The other one wasn't. That's the way she lives. The only way she can afford to live. She's stuck in Hawaii. She can't get out. She's living in slime, in paradise. So I said, you know what? I said, look up hunger. Let's see what's going on with hunger. You know? And I think Obama at the time was also talking about, you know, the war on hunger. We were shocked what we found, or what she found. She found that more people are considered or classified as hungry right now in the country than ever before in history. And the problem, the reason why people don't recognize that is because hunger isn't the way it used to be. Hunger, you look at somebody who's skin and bones and say, okay. Hunger now is pretty much obesity because they can't afford nutritious meals, so they go buy the dollar meal. And so that's why it's hard to detect. She also told me that 50% of the people who are hungry are white. So it's just not a minority problem, it's an American problem. And then she told me that the city at the top of the list with hungry people is Houston. So you tell me. There you go, perfect example. You said it, not me. So here we go with Senator Cruz again. My problem is, if we have Americans who live in Houston who are hungry, why didn't we bring the $2 million worth of food to them? Why didn't we bring them the soccer balls? Now, or to our veterans. I understand photo ops. I don't want to totally destroy them. I understand photo ops, although I don't have a camera here.
It's all right, we have one for you.
Thank you. Trying not to get my stomach. But if you really want to do something humanitarian, you don't need a camera. You don't need a camera, and you don't have to tell people about it. I say shine the light on the Americans who are struggling, not the illegal aliens, because you want to try to get a certain voting bloc. That is where our country, our Congress, and our candidates are completely throwing everybody in this room under the bus. And so then I'll conclude right now, before I take any questions, with ISIS. I was on Fox and Friends a couple of weeks ago. I happen to be pretty good friends with Brian Kilmeade. We used to be neighbors. It's actually how I got my start on Fox. And he said, hey, I want to do something with you on ISIS. I said, hey, all right, I'll talk to you about it on the border. No problem. And so he asked me the question, and I said, I bet my life ISIS is here. And because I know Brian as well as I know Brian, I could tell he was sort of like a little shocked that I said that. He didn't know it was coming. And I would. Go back to what I showed you here. 42 times that video showed you that trucks went through with the Border Patrol station, the technology, everything there. They had to cut a fence. What I didn't show you is that there's a 3-mile trek across terrain which you just cannot drive faster than 10, 15 miles at best. So they have to go another 30 miles going 10 miles an hour, and they're not getting caught. Right?
Can't catch what you don't want.
He was taking a picture. I got to be a wise ass at least one time. I think that's probably my 3rd time, right? All right, sorry. ISIS is so much more powerful than I even think Fox realizes. In a matter of a day, it went from they're making $3 million a day to just the other night on CBS, they wound up doing an expose on ISIS. And the guy from Turkey, I think it was from Turkey, whatever, said they're getting $6 million a day. I mean, it doubled. You don't. They are recruiting. They are doing things that other terror networks have never been very successful at as fast as ISIS is today. And so when I see these airstrikes, or what Obama's doing, and I watch these generals who I have such respect for because of their service, but I know at the end of the day they're protecting their president instead of protecting Americans, I do not want to see one American die. But I also understand that our boys and girls sign up for the military to defend our country. We are going to go nowhere with these airstrikes unless we have something going on significant on the ground. And I don't mean with Syrian rebels. It is the only way. And I don't know, maybe it's the New Yorker in me. I could look at somebody on that television, maybe it's because I'm on TV, and I just know how it works. I can just see they want to say more than they're saying. We are going to lose this battle. And they are recruiting people from the US, they're recruiting people from all over the place, and those drug cartels, they just love the green, man. $50,000 a head. And so a week after I was on Fox and Friends, then you heard the federal government say that they're hearing the communication between Juarez, Mexico, and terrorists. It is a matter of time, and they're going to be coming in through your state. If we were to have Border Patrol, and I'm finishing up, I'll take your question first. If we were to have Border Patrol and the National Guard actually defending the border against people like ISIS and terror networks who have been coming through the border for years, it's documented, I would feel a lot safer about where we are going to be in the days, weeks, and months to come. But, knock on wood, I haven't been wrong yet. I think it's a matter of time before you see something happen in the United States and it gets connected back to that border. It's just too wide open. That being said, I'm open to all your questions. I'm trying to see if I forgot everything here. All right, throw Ted Cruz under the bus. Check that out. You know, I will conclude. Let me conclude on this. When I sit here and I talk about these gentlemen, I'm not talking about them as a guy I'd have a beer with. I'm sure they're all great people. I'm sure there are things about Ted Cruz that he works really hard for you, or Rand Paul works really hard for people in Kentucky. I'd like to believe so. You know, Ben Carson just said today on the Hugh Hewitt show that he's pretty much going to run for president. He said, better wait until I leave till you do that. He says the only humane thing to do with the illegal aliens in this country is to allow them to stay. Yeah. So, you know, he falls right into that same work permit conversation as Rand Paul does. I think these men are all great men, but they're not good leaders. Not where we are right now in the country. And then ask yourself this question. This is it, I promise, my last statement. When I was 21, 22 years old, I tried out for the Montreal Expos, back when they were a baseball team, and the Chicago White Sox. So I was in Florida, and it's pretty much about this size group. And so as I'm down there, you know, you start sizing up all the other different guys, and, you know, we're pretty much the best of the best from all of our towns or whatever. And you say, oh, you know what, I bet I could run faster than you, and you're a little bigger than me, but all right. Scout comes in. This is the White Sox. Scout comes in and says, you know, I see all of you sizing each other up, and you're making a mistake. You're not against him, and you're not against her. The person you're fighting against, you can't see. He has your position right now. He's a major leaguer. He's got millions upon millions of dollars. He's got millions of followers and fans, and everybody thinks he's just wonderful. That's who you're going up against. And so I come back to what somebody said before. 2 years from now, you're going to start saying to yourself, oh boy, I'm counting the days till Obama's gone. But then's going to come election day. This isn't about Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or Ben Carson. This is about who can beat Hillary. Because Hillary is that major league ball player sitting at the top. So you make sure you keep that in your mind when you're sitting there thinking who it is that you want to support. Who can beat Hillary? That's it. You have a question? Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you had presented some solutions for stopping the illegal immigration into this country. However, our brain-dead politicians would never do what you have suggested.
Right.
And we can't make them do it. And our brain-dead society is going to keep voting these idiots back in. So what can we do? Where does it, how are we going to end this?
Well, you know, one thing I forgot to say is, you know, these politicians always say, and I'm going to put Cruz in there because it's home, it's close to home. We have to secure the borders. We need to secure the borders. That's the sexy answer. Yeah, we have to secure the borders, but we also have to do what I said. That's the complete, comprehensive immigration enforcement. That's what we need, enforcement. Now to your question, honestly, you can't do anything. The only thing you can do is continue to tell people, like what I just told you. You think it's easy walking into Texas and telling you that your senator sucks? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. I'm trying to be funny. In New York, they would have laughed. See, you always got to have a backup joke to the first joke if it doesn't work. I wish I had an answer for you, man. I wish I had an answer for you. I'll say these two things. It doesn't answer your question. It's just my theory. The way to win this next election in 2016, and we need to win this election in 2016, or I do believe what Mary said is going to be true. It's going to be impossible to save. It's one of the reasons why I'm not going to. I have one more movie in me, and then I'm done. I'm walking away from Fox stuff. I'm walking away from all of it, and I'll explain it why. But if a candidate were to step up and say what I said tonight, what to do with those people who are here, they would be the #1 candidate immediately. Immediately. I know it to be true. I got brand new shoes, right? I just bought brand new shoes last week.
Nobody financed it.
That's right.
That's not true. I'm telling you right now. I think the fear of Hillary winning, I think they will grasp onto anybody who they think will win. So let me go back to this. I'm getting shoes last week. And the guy says, you know, you look familiar. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm on Fox a lot. He said, oh, yeah, all right. He said, what do you talk about? So I could tell he didn't recognize me. And I said, I do a lot of the border. He says, oh, and with the illegals? And I said, yeah. And the way he said it, and because I'm in New York, I was like, okay, you know, he's not going to like me. And then he says, oh, what's your take on it? And I told him what my take was. The real him came out. Once he knew that I was positioned in the way I'm positioned, the truth just came. Had I said to that guy, oh, you got to let these people stay, he would have been like, yeah, you know, they're hard workers. He would have been afraid. So the person who steps up and emerges and who isn't afraid to say the truth, I think that's how you win the election. I think getting the people off the sidelines is how you win the election. Because even after Reagan gave his amnesty, Bush Sr. did not see a pop in the Latino vote. He didn't get rewarded with anything. So I don't think that's going to help at all. I think the way to get it is you got to get people off those sidelines. And you may say, well, that's impossible. Well, let me tell you something. Before I got all righteous and all and started doing my films, I was on the sidelines. I say it all the time. If you would have came up to me 5 years ago, I swear to you, you would have came up to me 5 years ago and said, yeah, I'm part of a Texas Tea Party. I said, I'm part of the New York Keg Party. I would have had no idea what you were talking about. No idea. I didn't talk left, right. I just talked about where we were going on vacation, what we were doing. And then once I saw what was going on in the country, I was like, whoa, I got 4 kids, man. What are they going to do for jobs? What are they going to do for this? Look what's happening to my own son with football. My son is a phenomenal football player. I mean, phenomenal football player. We're thinking about moving to Texas. Phenomenal. Problem is, we probably won't. We won't for two reasons. Number one is I live a mile from the beach and I don't want to give that up. And number two, listen, and number two is, if you can't tell, I don't run from problems. I'm not going to move. Nobody's sending me out of my house. I'd rather sit there and fight, tooth and nail.
That's your home, right?
That's my home. That house has been in my family name since the early 1900s. We used to live, here's a good little side story. We used to live in a 7-bedroom, I had everything, sort of thing. And then after 9/11, I just said, all right, no more chasing money. I got to chase my dream. And that's, baseball's over my dream, but so is filmmaking. And so now we live in a house with 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 4 kids, a dog, my wife and I. We went from this to this because that house was in my family and I wanted to keep it in my family. I've never been happier. I went from like $7,000 a month for a mortgage down to $2,000 a month for a mortgage. It's like all of a sudden, it was like my 2 boys who used to like never talk to each other, now they're sharing a room. And my 1 boy's just gone to college, so I redid Ryan's whole room, and I took the other bed out, and I said, man, this is awesome. And I could just see his face was flat. He misses his brother, So it's like the old days, going back to the old days. I love it. But I'm not going anywhere. I'd rather fix the problem. Why do we have to run? Next question.
You mentioned the National Guard was ineffectual.
Yeah.
What did you see, why, and what policy changes could be made to make it more effective?
Well, the one thing I don't understand, and maybe you could explain this better than anything I've read so far, is I can't understand why Governor Perry waited so long. I would have liked to have seen the Guard down there earlier, even though that kind of contradicts what I'm saying. But it's there now, and it's being deployed now. And in fact, that's one of the things I'm going to go check on Sunday. But one of the reasons why it doesn't work, here's another thing. You know how you keep on hearing about this bill that protects these kids from being deported? Okay. It's baloney. That bill was designed to help those who are trafficked, not smuggled. Difference between traffic and smuggled. She smuggled, meaning she paid me, and I took you across voluntarily. You trafficked. I got you, put a bag over your head, snuck you in, and I sold you somewhere into sex trade here in Houston. The bill is designed to protect him, not her. But what they're doing is using it to protect her when all the people are being smuggled in. So, the National Guard right now, when somebody steps 6 inches over that border, National Guard can't say go back. National Guard just becomes an extension of the Border Patrol taxi service. And that's why right now it's just really window dressing. Is it preventing anything? No. I just showed you how the Mexican military was flying over my head in Laredo, Texas for 20 minutes. Why were they doing that? To make sure that we were there so they could sneak in the other people down the other part of the Rio. Next. Yes.
It's kind of maybe a little off topic, but Sergeant Andrew Camarisi.
Sure.
You know who that is, right?
He is a Marine who is stuck in Mexico right now that if I was the President of the United States, he'd be at Disneyland.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yeah. I can't understand why that man, is still in a prison. I just cannot understand it.
Chained to a cot
Yeah.
because of his Marine.
There's no, I think all of America agrees.
I saw.
All of America agrees. A boy in New Jersey, just killed by some guy, right, who says he's doing it in response and retaliation for America, bombing Iraq and Syria, all the, over there.
And the news wouldn't report it.
Nope, boy's dead, young boy, 19 years old, white boy dead, shot in a car for no reasons, retaliation. You think President Obama called his parents? Think he sent Eric Holder to New Jersey?
No. I tried to find that today.
Put his arms around the mother that's crying.
Dennis, there's a lot of people here who are very active
very active in the Tea Party all over the region. And a lot of us know the truth. A lot of what you said tonight is nothing new. You've heard it. We're trying to spread the word. Other than social media, which we all do all the time, other than trying to rally our neighbors, trying to bring people into groups like this, what else can we do to spread the word?
Well, this may hurt a little, but I don't know how to go anything honest but honesty.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And so when I'm talking to groups, automatically Tea Party gets a negative connotation. And I'm not part of the Tea Party. I'm not part of really any party. I've sort of stayed out of that because I always like to be the independent guy. But I think you know where I sit. I've been at some of these things, at some of these different events and rallies, and I've just listened to the way that, and I say you've tried to say things. And go back to what I told you about Detroit. If you start that conversation off with the, hey, I'd like to talk to you about why President Obama sucks and should be impeached, you know what he would have done? Get out of my neighborhood now. But I didn't do that. I focused it more on what he needed. What do you need from me? What do you need from us to make this better, blah, 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 blah. Now, I asked a question about Obama, and then I left. But if I had the time, and I was trying to really solve that problem right then and there, I would have said to him, well, look at all the things I just talked to you about. Got to put some of the blame on Obama. Let's look about how we could do that. Because I already worked him a bit. So he knows in the back of his head when he starts connecting the dots looking backward, yeah, 6 years ago President Obama wasn't the president. Now since he's the president, more people are getting shot, more people are out of work. You know what, this guy's got a point. The message and what you folks stand for is America. It's America. You just have to change a bit of the way it is that you sell it. Same thing with the movie back there. You got We Ride to DC. I just had a girl on my Facebook page come and say to me, I do this thing where people send me comments and then I'll just take a picture, I'll respond to it, and I put it up so everybody can read it. This one girl said, your movie was given to me by a friend. And I watched it. And I used to watch these news programs. And I cannot believe what I was not being told. I can't believe veterans were being treated like this. I can't believe the borders were like that. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Please continue to do it. Got her. Somebody had to give her that video. When they gave her the video, I'm imagining they didn't say, watch this and you'll see all that libtards listen to, you commies and all that other stuff here. The girl would have been like, screw you, I'm not watching that garbage, faux news. Instead, what I would say is, my goodness, when you've got to watch this. Veterans are getting hit with nightsticks. I wouldn't even say in front of the White House. I wouldn't say during the sequester. I just say they're getting hit with nightsticks. And if that woman is a waitress, be like, and you know what, there's a whole thing here about how it is that people like waitresses aren't making enough money because of the reasons. You should watch this. The guy who made this, he's independent. Now I'm using my film as an example. You see how I just sold that? No. It's not what you're saying. You're not saying anything wrong. You're just saying it the wrong way. And please, please stop with the impeachment stuff.
No.
I've been saying this for years. 3 years I've been traveling. And now I get yes. 3 years ago you were like, ah! The impeachment's going to go nowhere. Nowhere. It's just going to waste a lot of our time and resources. He's never getting impeached. And if he does get impeached, he's not leaving. Yes, ma'am.
Who enforces it? Because you could say that all day long, but until
President of the United States sets that tone. ICE has been told not to do its job. They've been told not to do their job. Another good little story, I'll make it very quick because I know we're running. I mean, I'll stay here all night long. I don't know what time you guys have to open.
Stay all night long.
I go back to my lonely hotel room. That Border Patrol agent I showed you in the video, he said to me that one day in January 2014, goes into work, they have roll call. Sits here like, regular roll call, and he says, okay, from now on, when we capture somebody, we're going to release them. Like, what? Yeah, we're going to release them. A couple of weeks later, the government put out what's called an RFI, Request for Information, on a government website. I can't remember the .gov, but it was a .gov, asking contractors to give information about how it is that they would escort 65,000 unaccompanied minors coming across the border. So they knew this was going to be the deal. Basically, Border Patrol was told, don't do your job. ICE is told, don't do your job. I always throw this in here, and I throw it in here because it's fun. If I were the President of the United States tomorrow, you know how I feel, right?
Yep.
I wouldn't need an executive order. I don't need anything. I just have to follow the laws that are already in the books.
Yep.
I just call up Brian and say, ICE, start deporting. Case closed. Let's go play golf. Kidding.
Dennis, we have a two-party system. One needs cheap labor, the other one needs both. They're both in bed together. The powers that be, and I'm talking about leadership on both sides of the aisle, including the White House. At this moment, it doesn't matter who we vote for, because when they get to Washington, somebody comes to the office, they're going to talk to them and say, this is how it is. This is what you're going to do. You're going to follow lockstep. Or you're not going to, nothing that you do will make a difference. I believe that at this moment, nationally, we're pretty much done. I believe that. I really do. I'm sorry to say that. That's why we here at the Filmmaker Tea Party has put a lot of efforts on Texas. I don't believe we're going to win in 2016 nationally either. I really don't. I don't see the votes, the way the electoral college is set up. I don't see the votes. So I believe something has to happen at the state level, and not up in Washington, to make this stop. And if we don't do that, I don't think we can win this one. I just don't believe that the powers that be in Washington have the mental fortitude or the gut to do it. And I know it sounds defeatist, but at the end of the day, it just seems like what we do with the Tea Party, I'm sorry to say this, guys, but it seems like all we're doing is sticking our finger in the dike and holding that water. But that dike's going to break. And that's what we're headed. I don't see an answer here. I really don't.
I hear you loud and clear.
Well, look at the Senate races. Look what they're doing. We're having to fight not only Democrats, but the other side, our side. Yeah. They're killing our guys, our good grassroots. They're destroying,
Let me comment on that, because I live in a world of negative news. If you look at the introduction, right? Megyn Kelly never calls me up to talk about how it is that my kid won his football game. She would call me up and ask me to tell about how it is the homecoming got destroyed. Nobody comes to my Facebook or to my website to see anything positive. They hear about how ISIS is in America. And yet, I won't let myself go in that direction. I hear people like you every single day, and I always come back with the same thing. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. That being said, here's a little glimpse of hope. Imagine the professor in Virginia who was told that there was no way he was going to beat Eric Cantor. Eric Cantor had $5.5 million and was the leader. And this guy's a professor with no professional political experience, just passion and a big, huge message about illegal immigration and how it has to stop. And he had $250,000, of which he spent a little over $100,000, and he won. I believe in my heart, and I can't think otherwise because I got my 4 kids at home. I believe that if the right candidate emerges, there are enough people, they may not be part of your Tea Party, there are enough people in this country that know that it's sinking and they want to save it. I just think it's a function of getting that person, he or she, out there, get that momentum. You know, a perfect person for this, but he just loves himself just too much, is somebody like a Donald Trump. The Donald Trump personality not only gets this country back on track immediately, but he can probably bring both sides together because he ain't going to deal with the politics and the BS. This is why I also think Carson's not the guy. He's just too soft.
I mean, that's it.
You know? Yeah, he already said, I don't really want the job. He said it millions of times. I'll take it if somebody else isn't there. I always use the same thing. That's like, who's the Texans quarterback at this point? Fitzpatrick. All right. That's probably a bad example because he was throwing interceptions. But you know what? Let's go back to the old days. Let's go back to, I'll use it, let's say Sims in New York. Can you imagine if he was in the Super Bowl and told Parcells, no, I really don't want to pass today? Could you imagine that? Can you imagine being the shortstop in a World Series and say, boy, I hope they don't hit the ball today? Is that the kind of leader we want? No, we want a guy who wants the job. A guy like Trump wants the job. He ain't going to take BS from Putin. He's going to have ground troops in there. This ISIS thing, people will be back to work. And you know what? The media wants to give him crap about his hair. They've been giving him crap about his hair forever. You know what he tells them? I like my hair. Next question. That's the personality. But unfortunately, he loves himself too much. He's a personality at this point.
What do you think of the Protect Our Borders type of organizations?
The militias?
If that's what you want to talk.
It's not going to do it, sir. I already explained this to you, and I'll say it again a different way. You can rip down the, I believe in the fence, but you can rip down the fences. You can tell the Border Patrol to stay 5,000 feet off the border. Nobody will come across if there's no incentive to come across. Except for people like ISIS or Al-Qaeda. They won't come across if they can't get a job. They won't come across if their child plops out and all of a sudden is an American citizen. They won't come. You know, if they come to America, I interviewed the whole movies with these 2 illegal aliens who I befriend. I asked the guy, it's not in the film, I asked him, if I gave you $1 billion, $1 billion, do you understand what that means? He's like, yeah, I understand what it means. I said, all right, would you want to be a citizen or do you want to go home? I said, I want to go home.
I knew it.
I want to go home. Rip the incentive, and this stops. And like I said, you know, here's another thing that I've said, part of my solution, because you know, people say, oh, you're not humane. No, I'm humane. I'm humane and I know how to work deals. I'm a business guy, you know? In any business deal, think about this. I mean, everybody here has probably sold a house or bought a house, right? You had your house up for sale for $500,000. That's what you wanted. Then a guy came in, he was a qualified buyer, he had enough money to put down whatever, but he wanted $450,000. Did you say, no, if you don't give me $500,000, I'm not doing the deal? No. You found your way to $475,000. He was happy, you were happy, you sold the house, you moved on. Congress doesn't do that. These guys want $5,000, these guys want $450,000, and the house never gets sold. And the rest of us are sitting there cutting the lawns and doing all the other work and saying, when are we getting rid of this house? When I deport those people, I'm not collecting taxes off their cash. Joe from Mexico, you got $60,000 cash? Great, you probably worked your ass off for that. Take it home. It's yours. I don't care who paid you. I don't need to know who's hiring you. I don't care who your cousins are. I'm not gonna go, I'll find them on my own. Go home, here's a plane ticket, here's the whole thing. Check it, make sure you got all your shots. I'll do everything for you on the way out. And here you go. I filled out the application for you to become part of the legal system. All you need is a stamp and an envelope and a signature. When you go home, do it. I'll put you right on line. I'll put you right on the line. Because right now the law is, if you've been here for 5 years or so, which I don't ever know how they figure that one out, but if you've been here, you're not allowed to apply for 5 or 10 years. There's like a penalty waiting period. I get rid of it. Here you go. We'll welcome you back if you want to come back, but you got to do it the right way. No fine, no fee, keep your cash. That's how you sell the house for $475.
I have a first of all, I follow you faithfully on Facebook. I'm niece Marcus Tammy. My name's all backwards. But anyway, so I followed you 2 Million Bikers to DC before the film was ever made.
Okay.
So I got to see the actual clips as B was posting them, and you know, I'm very fluent in Spanish, and I have talked to a very good friend of mine for 20 years. We've raised our kids together. She's from El Salvador, and recently in this influx, her sister came, who never wanted to come from El Salvador. Was the only one of 6 kids who wouldn't go. She claims that the cartels were threatening to kill her sister because her son wouldn't join. She's been known to exaggerate, so I kind of took it with a grain of salt, let her slip up a little bit, and it was basically the same thing. Well, the border was open. Now, mind you, her sister didn't have any little kids. Her boys are all grown. So the sister was able to come over here, but because her nephew was wanted for felonies in Houston, Harris County, they took him. So I know for a fact that, and the baby situation is what you're saying. They're borrowing babies here, you know. Préstame tu bebé, you know, let me borrow your daughter. And they're up there with this little baby, the little unaccompanied children. And they put a vest on these women that are humanitarian worker aid, that, you know, they just, it's all for photo stuff. And I mean, she finally admitted to me. And I said, 20 years we've raised our kids together. Why do you have to lie to me? You know, it's all for all those babies they said that come over here. They're not, they're literally, you know, you put this apron on and pretend that you're a humanitarian worker, and we're going to pass it. Notice on the pictures, it's the same kids. Has anybody seen all the pictures? Yeah, it's the same one over and over again. ISIS is here. The one at Jason's Deli here in Houston didn't get caught. The other one, HPD refused to inform citizens. He was arrested. He was in the back of the car. I saw his handcuffed, everything. I saw everything. But they pushed back media, pushed back everybody. So one is in custody.
Well, what you talk about is changing the moral argument, the moral narrative. What's going on? The examples she cited, those are the things that need to be focused on. What you get is a false narrative of humanitarianism, kids stacked up on each other in detention centers. That's the face. It's the being dragged along to kindergarten. That's the face that the left likes to do, and that is where they suck in the youth and everybody else into this open amnesty, etc. If you said the trail to Texas is a trail of tears, it is one of misery and brutality, rape and murder, and you focus on those people as the victims. In fact, DPS has changed their mindset on people coming across the border. They think a lot of these people, and they've now publicly said so, consider them victims of human smuggling, cartels, transnational gangs, etc. So what do you think about changing that narrative, maybe through a film or something, where you focus on the immoral argument that says, come to America and drag them through this trail of tears?
You know, I don't think I need to make a film about that. And I'm only making one more film and I'm done. But that story is already told. Meaning, when Gloria comes across, that sister who came across that I told you before, took the snapshot, she probably also told her sister she did get raped. I mean, the people who get here, they are really sacrificing a lot to get here. That's how much they want the job.
But the American people don't know that story.
Well, you're never, ever, ever, I mean, this goes back to what I said here before. You're never, ever, ever going to get a guy like me to get in front of those 30 million people. I have been doing this, in fact, I'm ruining some of the movie. I have been doing this now for 4 years. In the last 2 years, I have, at this point, probably spent over $100,000 on PR. So, I mean, now at Fox, if Megan wants me on, the booker at Fox, part of Megan's crew just called me directly. Hey, Dennis, we want to have you on. I just got one 2 days ago for Fox and Friends. I was on about they want the Border Patrol now to wear cameras. So they call me directly. But it used to be that I'd have to have my rep try to get me in, try to sell me, so to say. Over $100 grand. We tried ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN. I have video that nobody else goes out and gets. I have been on MSNBC one time. The other ones, don't put me on. And the one guy on MSNBC, after I was on there with him and I was politely kicking his ass, he ended it with the, well, we're definitely going to have you back next week to finish this conversation. That was like 2.5 months ago. I'll never be back on there. So they're not going to put this story on those channels. It's never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. It's not. And you know, here's another little thing to make your night worse. A lot of people say, well, nobody even watches CNN anymore. They may not be watching CNN. They may not be watching CNN on television, but CNN.com kicks butt, beats FoxNews.com big time. The amount of tens of millions of people are watching CNN online, so those clips become clips for the web. One more question.
So, this whole thing of we need somebody to kick butt.
Yeah.
How do we get them and their message into the mass media when the mass media doesn't want to see them, doesn't want to hear them, doesn't want to give their message a chance? Don't even want to invite them to any of the debates and stuff that go on. How do we do it?
Well, the one thing that I would suggest to you is you've got to keep within your friend network, so to say. So let's use Ben Carson as an example, although I've already told you I think he's the wrong guy. But let's say he was the right guy. Let's say he was Donald Trump without the massive ego. I would be emailing Fox News every single last day that you want to see more of Ben Carson. Believe me when I tell you, they read the emails. They may not get into the minutiae. And do me a favor, don't send them the email that starts here and ends here. Just say, I want to see more Ben Carson. I'll tune in more. Those two sentences do a lot more than the whole thing. Okay? Now, why is that the way to do it? And I'd also go, I guess I would say go to the Blaze too, although I don't think he's got the punch. But go to Fox. Now what? What happens? Those other stations, believe it or not, they know what Fox is doing. They're tracking Fox. And so if Fox brings Ben Carson to the top, Ben Carson's going to be a player, whether NBC, ABC, or CBS like it or not. So the channel for somebody to emerge is through Fox. Trust me. And I know that that's what Fox is doing with him. Because at the end of the day, he's a neurosurgeon. But they've had him on to comment about ISIS. They've had him on to comment about corporate tax rates. They've had him to comment on about just about everything. So what they're doing is they're trying to position him. So this way, he's taken seriously when it's time to have those debates. So that's the only thing you can do, is go to those shows and say, I want to see more Ben Carson, I want to see more Ben Carson, I want to see more Donald Trump, I want to see more Donald Trump, I want to see more Dennis Lynch, I want to see more Dinesh D'Souza. You email, believe me. Or on Facebook, you know, if they do have him on there, Or they have, let's use Donald Trump again. You know, if Greta's got Donald Trump on there talking about the presidency, comment. That's another thing the shows do, by the way. The shows measure on Facebook all those shares. So, let's say, for instance, this is why I was getting a lot of play on the shows. When, in fact, the girls will know, right? I'm always asking, like, if there's an article written about me and I want that article out, I'll say, please go read and share. Because I know if that article gets a lot of play, they're going to look to do another article. There was a point, I haven't been on Megan's show in about 3 months because I've been traveling and doing stuff. And immigration has sort of slowed down a bit in terms of the news cycle, not at the border. But at one point, I held 6 of the top 10 shares she had on Facebook. I was on 2 times, 3 times a week. You know, same thing with the TV. When they see the ratings and those 2 things go back up, that person keeps coming in. It's up to you. It's up to you guys. Yeah. All right, so I will make this the last question if there is one more. If there isn't one more question, yes, ma'am.
So why is it that Sarah Palin,
Sarah Palin, you said?
failed so miserably with the media?
Why did she fail so miserably with the media?
Because her message is good.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you asked that. I'm writing a speech. My last tour stop is October 4th in Phoenix. Big 800 people. Sheriff Joe's going to be there and stuff. And say again?
Careful of it.
And so anyway, I was watching something about speeches because I usually don't give speeches, so I was looking at this speech. And I watched Sarah Palin on TV with Katie Couric. I think that's one of the things that did her in. She wasn't prepared. And you drop your guard one time as bad as she did that time. I mean, I was watching that now. I mean, you look back, it's easier sometimes to see when you look back than when you're looking at. And she dropped the ball. She gave them what they needed, to be honest. I know ultimately her message was good. I've met her too, very nice lady. But, you know, and there comes also a time too when cutesy works a little bit, but after a while it starts to get overplayed. And, you know, a little bit of the hockey stick mom thing, I think starts to work a little bit against her because that was cool attention. But then you want to see somebody who, she could have been the chief executive if something happened to McCain. You know, here's another little something for you. She was just in Phoenix with Dinesh D'Souza. They were giving speeches together. She gave her speech first. She spent her whole time talking about how crappy Obama is. Got very little applause. Dinesh came up and spoke a lot about what we have to do. He had a standing ovation. So I think people are tired of you know, people want solutions at this point. You know.
I found that until somebody is directly impacted, be it somebody they love, their family members, you know, there's something life-altering like cancer or something like that, they get denied some type of medical treatment, be it a provider or anything. Then it becomes a personal vendetta that they're like, I'm sorry, your insurance is you got deductibles, you can't. When it becomes an immediate problem in your family and a problem to you, that's when people look at and start doing something about it.
Well, let me just say this in conclusion. First of all, thank you for having me. Usually what I do now is if anybody has one or they want me to sign, I'll go in the back, sign any DVDs. Why anybody would want my signature, I don't understand. But if you do, just do me a favor, take the cellophane off before I do that. And that's really...
Are you serious about possibly running?
You know, it's amazing. I was just saying to him, I'm packing up my bag. I'm like, I'm going to get out of here without that question. You know, there are days when I say absolutely. There are days when I say absolutely not. Right now, today, I'm on that. I'm not sure.
You know, maybe reaching out to some of the colleges and going and speaking there and bringing the youth in, because it is their future too, you know, that they're ruining because they're uninformed.
If you can hold on just a moment, we have a few quick announcements. First of all, thank you, Dennis. Thank you also to the Alvin Tea Party, the Pearland Tea Party, and all the other tea parties that are here today. Thank you. And everybody not with the Tea Party, thank you. One of the things I want to remind everybody is that Dennis will be at Sugarland at the Greater Fort Bend County Tea Party. We'll be hosting them on the 27th, which is a Saturday. The doors open at 6 p.m. Program starts at 6:30. Go to their website, greaterfortbendcountyteaparty.com, to get the information. All right, thank you. And take a friend to go see Dennis there. If you've got friends in the area, which most of us do, let them know. Also, thank you to the Clear Lake Tea Party for putting this together. We've got some action items we want you to do. First, deadline for voter registration is October 6th. I'm sure most of you are already registered. If you know anyone who is not, make sure you take a registration card. We have both Harris County and Galveston County in the back. We want to get as many people registered as possible to vote. Also, if you haven't signed up for the Clear Lake Tea Party newsletter, do it at our website. You can also look for our newsletter about our Texas plan to secure the border. And one of the things that Dennis mentioned was that soft messaging. And there's a section in that about that message, how to say it without turning them off, how to get their attention, and how to grab them by the heart. So make sure you sign up and get that newsletter. The other action item is we want everybody who gets that newsletter to commit to sending that to 5 more people and getting them to send it to 5 more people. So that's our action item. And to send your emails to Fox News saying we want to see more Dennis Michael Lynch, we want to see more Dinesh D'Souza, we want to see more of these people who are speaking that language and being the heroes that we want them to be. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Connie.